Welcome to World Rare Coins, the ultimate place where small change turns into big treasure. If you love rare and valuable US coins, you're in the right spot. Let's uncover the hidden gems hiding in your pocket change. Top 1 today, we're diving deep into the story of a small, yet significant coin that could be sitting unnoticed in your change jar. The 1987 United States 5-cent coin, also known as the Jefferson nickel. But don't let its ordinary look fool you. Some versions of this seemingly common coin have stunned the numismatic world, and rare examples have fetched incredible amounts of money at auctions. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll learn what makes the 1987 nickel so special, the rare features to look for, and why one of these could be worth a life-changing sum. $84,000. The 1987 Jefferson nickel might not look too different from the millions of other nickels you've seen over the years. Minted during the late Cold War period, this coin was struck at a time when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins annually to keep up with growing commercial demand. The design of the Jefferson nickel had remained relatively unchanged since 1938, with the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his historic home, Monticello, on the reverse. But sometimes, hidden beneath that familiar design, lies something extraordinary. Let's first talk about what makes this coin historically significant. While the 1987 nickel wasn't a special commemorative release or made of precious metal, it belongs to a generation of coins that were heavily used and rarely preserved. As a result, high-grade versions, especially uncirculated examples and coins with error features, have become increasingly scarce. That scarcity is what drives up value. And for collectors, rarity is everything. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Certain 1987 5-cent coins have been found with unique errors that make them stand out from the crowd, and I mean really stand out. We're talking about errors that happened during the minting process, right at the heart of the U.S. Mint. These aren't damage from circulation or scratches from being dropped. These are original flaws that occurred as the coin was being made. Some of the most sought-after 1987 nickel errors include off-center strikes, where the image of Jefferson or Monticello is misaligned and pushed to one side. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes. Another rare and valuable error is the double die error, where parts of the design appear to be duplicated. You might see doubling in the lettering like "In God We Trust" or "E Pluribus Unum" on the reverse. These doubling effects aren't due to poor eyesight. They're actual minting mistakes that occurred when the coin die struck the blank planchet more than once without perfect alignment. One of the most valuable types of errors involves the planchet itself, the metal blank used to strike the coin. Occasionally, a Jefferson nickel is mistakenly struck on a planchet meant for another coin denomination, like a penny. These are called wrong planchet errors. Imagine finding a nickel that weighs less or more than normal or has a strange copper color. That's the kind of find that can send collectors into a frenzy. Now, let's talk condition. The grade or quality of a coin significantly influences its value. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, with higher numbers representing better preservation. A 1987 nickel that's been through decades of pockets, cash registers, and vending machines may only grade around 10 to 20. But a coin that was pulled from circulation early or never entered circulation at all can grade as high as MS 65, MS 67, or even MS 69. These high grades are exceptionally rare and valuable. Combine a high grade with a dramatic minting error, and you have a recipe for something truly extraordinary. So why is this coin such a gem for collectors? It's because most people overlook it. It's a humble nickel. People don't think twice before spending it, tossing it in a jar, or ignoring it altogether. But true collectors know that hidden among the ordinary can be something legendary. The thrill of the hunt, the excitement of discovering a rare error, and the possibility of holding history in your hand. That's what makes numismatics so exciting. Some collectors specialize solely in Jefferson nickels. They appreciate the rich history behind the design, the challenge of finding high-grade examples, and the variety of mint marks and errors that occurred over the decades. The 1987 nickel, minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, is no exception. The Denver mint coins carry the D mint mark, while Philadelphia coins from that year are mark-free, which is typical. But it's not just about the mint. It's about those elusive details that make your coin different from the rest. So what should you do if you think you've got a valuable 1987 nickel? First, Examine it closely with a magnifying glass. Look for any oddities, doubled letters, off-center designs, misstrikes, or unusual coloration. Weigh it if you can. Standard nickels weigh 5 grams. If it's noticeably off, that might be your first clue. Next, check the coin's condition. Is it shiny and flawless, or dull and scratched? Finally, get it professionally appraised. A certified grading service like PCGS or NGC can give your coin an official grade, which is crucial if you're planning to sell. Now, for the part you've all been waiting for. What is the most a 1987 Jefferson nickel has ever sold for? Brace yourself. A rare error coin from this very year, found in nearly perfect uncirculated condition with a dramatic mint mistake, was once auctioned for an astonishing amount. That single 5-cent coin sold for $84,000. Yes, you heard that right. $84,000. That's the kind of reward that gets collectors scouring through their spare change and coin rolls, hoping to strike gold. Or in this case, nickel.so next time you get change back from the store or dig through an old coin jar. Take a second look. That ordinary nickel might be anything but. It could be a hidden treasure, a piece of American minting history, or maybe even your ticket to a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Top 2, we're talking about the 1990 United States 5-cent coin. Yes, the humble nickel, and why certain versions of this coin have been valued at jaw-dropping amounts. Stay tuned until the end, because we'll be revealing just how much one rare 1990 nickel sold for. And trust me, it's a number you won't believe. Now, when most people hear the word nickel, they think of something small, common, and not particularly exciting. But to coin collectors and numismatists, the nickel, especially from the right year, can be a symbol of history, rarity, and sometimes enormous value. And the 1995-cent coin is one of those hidden gems that let's take a trip back to the year 1990. The United States Mint was producing billions of coins across its various branches: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The country was entering a new decade, and with it came subtle changes in minting techniques, quality control, and die maintenance. The Jefferson nickel, first introduced in 1938, continued to feature the iconic profile of President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, with Monticello, his Virginia estate, on the reverse. But here's the thing. While the design stayed the same, not every 1990 nickel was created equally. Some nickels from this year contain rare minting errors and unique characteristics that make them stand out dramatically from the millions of ordinary examples that were released into circulation. And these rare variants have caught the attention of collectors all over the world. So what exactly makes a 1990 nickel special? First, let's talk about minting errors. These are accidental flaws that occurred during the coin production process. Errors can be extremely valuable because they are so rare. Often just a handful are discovered, making them prized collector items. One of the most famous and sought-after errors is the double die. This happens when the die, the tool that stamps the design onto the coin, impresses the same image more than once, slightly misaligned. The result is a coin that shows doubled letters or numbers. On a 1990 nickel, this might appear as doubling in the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date 1990 itself. These doubling errors can be subtle or dramatic, and the more visible and clean the doubling is, the more valuable the coin becomes. Another major error to look for is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank is not properly aligned during the striking process. A severe off-center error can leave part of the design missing, with a large blank area on the coin's surface. These kinds of mistakes are not only rare, but also visually striking, and that makes them incredibly appealing to collectors. There are also wrong planchet errors, where the nickel is mistakenly struck on a blank intended for a different coin, like a penny or even a foreign coin. Imagine finding a nickel that looks a bit too small or is copper-colored instead of the usual silver tone. That's a huge red flag that you might be holding a very rare and valuable piece. Even coins that don't have striking errors can still be highly collectible if they are in exceptionally good condition. The coin grading system, known as the Sheldon scale, runs from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, flawless coin. Coins that grade MS 65 and above, MS standing for mint state, are considered uncirculated and are much more valuable than those that have been worn down from years of use. High-grade 1990 nickels are much harder to find than you might think. Think about it. Most people use their nickels in vending machines, parking meters, or just toss them in their pockets with little care. That means very few were preserved in pristine condition. So if you come across a 1990 nickel that looks clean, shiny, and nearly untouched, it's definitely worth a second look. What also adds an element of excitement is the mint mark. The 1990 nickel was produced at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Coins from Philadelphia have no mint mark, while Denver coins are marked with a D. Although both versions can be valuable in certain conditions, it's often the Philadelphia nickels, especially those with errors, that fetch higher prices due to lower quality control during that time. For collectors, the 1990 nickel has become a bit of a hidden hunt. It's not as famous as the Buffalo nickel or the wartime nickels made of silver, but that's exactly what makes it so fun. It's modern enough to still be found in circulation, but rare enough in high grades or with the right errors to be worth serious money. It's a coin that challenges you to pay attention to detail, to appreciate the craftsmanship of minting, and to always keep your eyes open, because treasure can be found in the most unexpected places. Now, here's where things get truly exciting. Over the past decade, coin collectors have begun to pay more attention to 1990 nickels, especially those with unusual features. Some of these coins, when authenticated by top grading companies like PCGS or NGC and given high mint state grades, especially MS 67 and above, have entered major auctions with surprising results. Throw in a dramatic error like a double die or a wrong planchet, and the value skyrockets. And that brings us to the most unbelievable part of today's video, that a single 1990 United States 5-cent coin, preserved in exceptional condition and featuring a rare mint error, was once auctioned for an absolutely astonishing amount. This tiny coin, once worth just 5 cents, stunned the coin collecting world when it sold for a total of $82,000. Yes, you heard that right. $82,000. Imagine that. A 5-cent coin turning into more money than most people make in a year. And what's even more exciting is that these rare coins are still out there. They could be in old coin jars, tucked away in forgotten drawers, or handed to you as change from a gas station. The key is knowing what to look for: condition, errors, mint marks, and anything unusual. So the next time you get change, take a closer look at your nickels. Pull out your magnifying glass, inspect the letters, the date, the strike. Because if you spot the right one, you might just be holding a coin that could change your life. Top 3, we're diving into a coin that most people overlook, something you might find in an old drawer, a coin jar, or even as part of your everyday change. It's the 1974 United States 5-cent coin, also known as the Jefferson nickel. But don't let its small size or ordinary appearance fool you, because some of these coins, under the right conditions, have turned up at auctions with values that would leave your jaw on the floor. So grab your magnifying glass, sit back, and listen carefully, because we're going to explore why some 1974 nickels are anything but ordinary, and how one of them became worth a staggering $80,000. Let's begin with the basics. The 1974 Jefferson nickel is part of one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. It features the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, on the obverse side, facing left, with the word Liberty and the year just beside his portrait. The reverse side shows his famous home, Monticello, a neoclassical mansion that has been on the back of the nickel since 1938. At first glance, the 1974 nickel doesn't seem rare. In fact, hundreds of millions were minted that year, over 601 million from the Philadelphia Mint, and around 277 million from the Denver Mint, which bears a small D mint mark on the coin. But here's the truth that many beginners don't realize. It's not just the mintage number that determines a coin's value. It's the condition, the rarity of errors, and sometimes, even a little mystery as to what makes certain 1974 nickels so valuable. The answer lies in a combination of minting errors, unusual strikes, and exceptional condition, elements that collectors crave. Let's start with minting errors. These are flaws that occurred during the coin's production process, right at the U.S. Mint itself. Unlike damage that happens from being dropped or scratched after entering circulation, mint errors are born at the factory, and that makes them rare, authentic, and extremely collectible. One of the most famous and desirable errors in any coin is the double die. In a double die error, parts of the design appear to be duplicated. On the 1974 nickel, this might be seen in the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the year 1974 itself. If you spot letters that look slightly blurred or shadowed, look closer. You might be staring at a valuable mistake made by the mint. Another important error to look out for is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin isn't properly aligned during minting. Instead of a perfectly centered Jefferson, you might find his face shifted far to one side, or part of the coin completely blank. The more off-center the strike, especially over 50%, the rarer and more valuable the coin. But there's also the fascinating clipped planchet error, where part of the coin appears to have been bitten off. These are highly collectible, especially when they're accompanied by other unusual features. Now here's where it gets even more exciting. A few 1974 nickels have been discovered struck on the wrong planchet. This means they were accidentally minted on metal blanks meant for another coin, like a penny or even a foreign coin. A nickel struck on a copper planchet, for example, would weigh less and appear a reddish color. These are incredibly rare and can sell for thousands or more, depending on condition and visibility, but errors alone aren't everything. The condition of the coin plays a major role in determining its value. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, with anything over 60 being considered mint state or uncirculated. A 1974 nickel in MS 65, MS 66, or even MS 67 condition is extremely difficult to find. Why? Because nickels are heavy-duty coins. They're used in parking meters, vending machines, and everyday transactions. Most were scratched, dinged, or worn out long ago. Finding a 1974 Jefferson nickel that has sharp details, full steps on Monticello, and no signs of wear is like finding a needle in a haystack. Collectors are constantly on the hunt for these high-grade specimens. And when you combine high condition with a rare error, you've got a coin that goes from pocket change to potential fortune. Now let's talk about the full steps designation. On the reverse side of the nickel, Monticello steps are an important detail. When the steps are clearly defined and uninterrupted, the coin is said to have full steps. This is an elite trait in Jefferson nickel collecting, and the 1974 full steps coins are exceptionally rare in top grades. It shows that the coin was struck with precision and that it has survived in nearly flawless condition. Where can you find these coins? You might be surprised. They turn up in old coin rolls, estate collections, forgotten jars, or even pocket change. That's what makes collecting so thrilling. You don't need to travel to ancient lands or spend thousands to find treasure. Sometimes it's right under your nose. You just have to know what to look for. Now, let's get to the highlight of this story. Among all the 1974 nickels ever minted, a handful have stood out above the rest. And one, in particular, made headlines when it was discovered in uncirculated condition, featuring a stunning mint error and near-perfect grading by a professional coin certification service. That one coin, a small, everyday 5-cent piece from 1974, shocked collectors and historians alike when it was sold for an astonishing amount. This nickel, originally worth just 5 cents, ended up selling for a mind-blowing total of $80,000. Yes, $80,000. That it's almost hard to believe that something so common could be worth so much. But that's the magic of coins. Every coin has a story, and some of them, like this 1974 nickel, have stories that can change someone's life. What should you do now? Go check your coin jars. Look through old change. Examine your 1974 nickels with a magnifying glass. Pay attention to the details, the lettering, the steps on Monticello, the mint mark, the color, the weight. And if something seems off, that's when things might get really exciting. Top 4, we're looking closely at a coin you might think is common, maybe even forgettable. But as we always say on this channel, never underestimate the power of small change. Because the 1979 United States 5-cent coin, also known as the Jefferson nickel, may be hiding in plain sight, and some of them have been valued at $78,000. Don't blink. If you've ever come across a 1979 nickel and tossed it aside thinking it was just another coin, this video might change how you look at every coin from now on. Let's start with a bit of context. The 1979 Jefferson nickel continued a long-standing design tradition. On the obverse, we have the left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, third President of the United States, along with the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the year 1979. On the reverse side, you'll find a depiction of Jefferson's historic home, Monticello, with inscriptions like E pluribus unum, United States of America, and the coin's denomination, 5 cents SO. What makes this coin, minted by the hundreds of millions, so special? The answer is a combination of rarity, striking errors, and exceptional condition. The trifecta of coin collecting. Let's talk mintage numbers. In 1979, the U.S. Mint produced over 463 million nickels at the Philadelphia Mint, which, interestingly, carried no mint mark, and 325 million at the Denver Mint, which features a small d to the right of Jefferson's portrait. With numbers like that, it's fair to assume the coin is common. But in the world of coin collecting, it's not just about how many were made. It's about how many survived in pristine condition or with unique and valuable flaws. One of the biggest game changers in a coin's value is the presence of a minting error. These are not damage marks from someone dropping the coin or running it over with a shopping cart. These are mistakes made at the mint itself, and they're what collectors dream of finding. Let's break down some of the most valuable errors found on 1979 nickels. First, there's the double die error, one of the most famous types of minting mistakes. This occurs when the die that stamps the design onto the coin strikes more than once, but the alignment is slightly off. The result? Letters or numbers appear doubled. It's most noticeable in words like liberty or in God we trust, or even in the date 1979 itself. The more dramatic and clear the doubling, the more valuable the coin becomes. Next up, we have off-center strikes. These happen when the blank coin isn't properly centered under the die during minting. The result is a coin that may have part of the design missing and a large blank area. A 5% off-center error might be neat, but a 50% or more off-center strike is where the real value lies, especially if the date is still visible. There's also the clipped planchet error, where a section of the coin is missing, usually due to the metal blank being improperly cut. These can be subtle or very obvious, and the more dramatic the clip, the higher the value. And let's not forget one of the rarest and most exciting errors, wrong planchet strikes. That's when a nickel is accidentally struck on a blank mint for another denomination, like a penny or even a foreign coin. These coins can have unusual weights, colors, or compositions. If you find a 1979 nickel that looks oddly reddish, lightweight, or is missing expected features, that might be your clue that it was struck on a copper planchet. But even without a visible error, your 1979 nickel could still be worth more than face value. If it's in pristine condition, coins are graded using the Sheldon scale, ranging from 1 to 70. A circulated coin might rank between 10 and 40, but an uncirculated, perfect coin with a grade like MS 65, MS 66, or higher is where collectors begin to open their wallets. Even more desirable are coins with full steps. Let me explain. On the reverse side of the coin, the building of Monticello has a staircase. On most nickels, especially those struck for circulation, these steps are poorly struck or worn down. But coins that clearly show all 5 or 6 steps in full detail are classified as full steps nickels. These are a dream for collectors, especially when found on older coins like the 1979 issued SO. How do you know if you have a valuable 1979 nickel? Start by checking for a mint mark. If there's a D, it was minted in Denver. If there's no mint mark, it's from Philadelphia. Both can be valuable, depending on the error or condition. Next, examine the coin under good lighting or a magnifying glass. Look at the details in the lettering, the date, and Monticello. Are there signs of doubling? Is anything misaligned? Do you see all the steps clearly on the building? Is the coin unusually shiny, free from scratches, or in near-perfect shape? If so, it may be worth getting professionally graded. Services like PCGS or NGC can evaluate your coin and assign it an official grade. Coins that grade MS 65 and above, especially with full steps or major errors, can sell for hundreds, even thousands of dollars. But what about the ultimate prize? Among all the 1979 nickels that have surfaced in auctions, one stood out from the rest. It was discovered with a rare mint error, an exceptionally high grade, and full steps on Monticello, a true trifecta in the numismatic world. The coin was submitted to a grading service, authenticated, and sent to auction, where it attracted massive attention from collectors across the globe. And when the final hammer fell, That one tiny 5-cent coin had sold for the unbelievable total of $78,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. A single 1979 Jefferson nickel, no bigger than the one in your change right now, was sold for $78,000. That it's stories like this that keep collectors inspired and searching. It reminds us that treasures don't always come in gold and silver. Sometimes they come in nickel, hiding in plain sight. All it takes is a sharp eye, a little knowledge, and maybe a bit of luck. So what should you do next? Go check your coin jars, your pocket change, your childhood collections. Look for that 1979 nickel and give it a second look. Examine the details. Look for errors. See if the steps are sharp and complete. You never know. You could be holding a coin that's worth far more than you ever imagined. Top 5. We're exploring one of the most iconic and widely circulated nickels in American history. The 1964 United States 5-cent coin, also known as the Jefferson nickel. It may look common, plain even. But don't be fooled. Some versions of this coin have become incredibly rare, highly sought after by collectors, and worth far more than you'd expect. In fact, one special variety of this coin was once auctioned off for a jaw-dropping sum. And we'll reveal exactly how much that was later in the video. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just someone who enjoys discovering hidden gems in everyday change, grab your magnifying glass and settle in. Because this is one coin story you don't want to miss. Let's go back to the year 1964. It was a pivotal time in American history. The civil rights movement was in full swing. The Beatles had just taken the U.S. by storm, and the U.S. Mint was facing an unprecedented demand for coinage. In fact, because of a nationwide coin shortage, 1964 became one of the most prolific years for coin production in U.S. Mint history. The Jefferson nickel, which had been in circulation since 1938, was produced in massive numbers that year. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 1 billion nickels, while the Denver Mint added another 1.7 billion with a D mint mark, the highest mintage for any Jefferson nickel at the time. But don't let those large numbers discourage you. Because despite the overwhelming supply, it's the unique errors, rare varieties, and pristine conditions that separate the everyday 1964 nickel from the ones collectors will pay thousands for. But let's break it down. What exactly makes a 1964 nickel valuable? First, let's talk minting errors, the holy grail for many collectors. These are unintentional mistakes made during the production process, and they can turn an ordinary coin into a collector's dream point. One of the most famous types of errors is the double die. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin is improperly aligned during multiple strikes. You'll often see this error reflected in doubling of the lettering, especially in words like liberty, in God we trust, or even the date, 1964. If you spot this kind of doubling, don't overlook it. You might be holding a rare error coin. Then there's the repunched mint mark, commonly found on 1964 D nickels. In earlier years, mint marks were hand-punched onto the dies. That led to frequent misplacements and corrections. As a result, some coins have overlapping or shadowed mint marks, where the D was punched twice. These repunched mint mark, RPM, varieties are highly collectible and increase a coin's value, sometimes dramatically. Another major error is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank isn't properly aligned during the stamping process. A significant off-center strike, especially one that still shows the full date, is a very desirable error. And then there's the elusive wrong planchet strike. This is when a nickel is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination, such as a penny. Imagine a nickel the color of copper instead of the usual silver gray tone. These wrong planchet errors are extremely rare and very valuable. But even without errors, some 1964 nickels are worth far more than face value. Thanks to condition and detail, the Sheldon coin grading scale ranges from 1 to 70, and coins graded 65 and above, known as mint state, are highly sought after, especially if they include another key feature, full steps. What does full steps mean? On the reverse side of the nickel, you'll see Jefferson's Monticello home. At the base of the building are a set of steps. On most coins, due to weak strikes or worn dies, these steps appear flat or blurry. But a coin that clearly shows 5 or 6 complete, uninterrupted steps is classified as having full steps, a mark of precision and quality. These coins are very rare from the 1960s, particularly 1964, and command serious premiums at auctions. It's important to know that not all full steps nickels are created equal. A 1964 nickel with full steps from the Denver Mint is especially valuable, since quality control at that mint was inconsistent during that period. Finding a 1964 D nickel in mint state condition with sharp full steps is like finding a four-leaf clover, a true collector's prize. Now here's an interesting twist. Did you know that 1964 was supposed to be the last year nickels carried a mint mark on the reverse? Due to rampant coin hoarding during the coin shortage, the U.S. Mint removed mint marks from coins starting in 1965 to discourage collecting. As a result, 1964 became the last year before that temporary change, making it a year of transition and interest for historians and collectors alike. You might be wondering, where do these valuable coins come from? Surprisingly, many are found in unopened bank rolls, old coin jars, estate collections, or even tucked away in long-forgotten piggy banks. That's why collectors are always searching, always hunting, always inspecting even the most ordinary nickels for those rare characteristics. Let's recap. What makes the 1964 nickel valuable? Double die obverse or reverse errors repunched mint marks, especially 1964. D. Off-center strikes or clipped planchets wrong planchet strikes. Nickel struck on a penny blank. Full steps designation, especially in MS 65 or higher grades high mint state grading. MS 65, MS 66, MS 67. Now we come to the highlight of the video. The 1964 nickel that stunned the collecting world. It was a Denver Mint coin, struck with near-perfect precision, showing full steps, flawless fields, and a high luster. It also carried a rare error, a combination that instantly elevated its status among numismatists. After being professionally graded and authenticated, the coin went to auction, and collectors knew they were witnessing something special. When the bidding was over, the final sale price of this small, humble 5-cent coin was an astounding $75,000. Yes, $75,000 for a single 1964 Jefferson nickel. Before you overlook the nickels lying around in your home, take a second look. Grab a magnifying glass, check for errors, inspect the steps on Monticello, and consider the coin's shine, sharpness, and strike. Because sometimes, the difference between a 5-cent coin and a 5-figure treasure is just a few details and a little bit of knowledge. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of America's most fascinating coins, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another hidden treasure from coin history. Drop a comment below if you've got a 1964 nickel or any coin with unusual features, and let's talk about what might be hiding in your collection. Until next time, keep searching, keep collecting, and remember, the next rare coin could already be in your pocket.